Blog Talk Radio.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Everybody, this is the Superhero Academy. Welcome to the show this week. I am Crossfire the Crusader, and with us this week is our visiting professor, the amazing TREESONG. TREESONG, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
All right, and also on the air, we got a couple of callers already. I believe I have Midnight Detective. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, and hello to TREESONG.
I recognize the number there, bud. And I got area code 352. Who else do we have here?
Hi, it's Amazonia.
Amazonia, hey, welcome to the show, Am.
Hi.
So today,
finally got a chance to call.
Well, it's good to have you, definitely. Today, our goal, we're on Superhero Academy, we believe that each one of us has something to teach and all of us have something to learn. And we're going to be learning some everyday ways that we can impact the environment, that we can protect the world. We're about saving the world, we're about saving the planet too. And there's no one better in the RLSH community than TREESONG to share with us some ways that we can make things better environmentally and realistically at the same time. So I'm going to kind of just turn it over. TREESONG, why don't you tell us a little bit about your mission and the things you've been doing?
Yeah, I can talk about it. I've actually been, people ask me how long I've been a real-life superhero, and I'm not always sure what to say because I've been doing environmental work for probably about 10 or 12 years or so. But I've only been calling myself a superhero for the past, years since I found out about the community. So I've basically been working with local environmental groups and, bigger environmental groups to basically work on the problem from every level, everything from people learning to do recycling to changing the whole way that businesses do business or the way that governments regulate things. Today I like the theme of today because one of my favorite things is to talk about how everyday people can, in whatever way they like, do something simple, positive for the environment.
Definitely. I was reading on something a couple weeks ago, and I went back and read up on it today, back in down New Orleans. After the levee fell, there was one of the neighborhoods that's still in recovery from that 5 years later, but one of the residents on a vacant lot there started what has come to be known as the volcano. And it's basically what it is, it's a huge compost heap. And every afternoon he goes around to the restaurants in the area and the grocery stores and gets their food scraps that they're throwing away, and he dumps it into this compost heap, and they stir it and all that. And the schools have started helping out, and they're making this project. And the dirt that's coming from the volcano, as they named it, they're using it in the other areas and started, in the area and started growing their vegetables. In fact, this neighborhood now is turning into a lush garden spot down in the middle of New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina damaged area. And it's just little things, little things like that that I think any of us could do.
Yeah, and composting is one of the good examples of things that people can do every day. It's something that people who live in rural areas may already know about composting, but people who don't, if they live in a city and get all their food from the store and throw it out in the trash when they're done, they may not realize, if you put the food in a pile, you mix it up a little bit, you let it sit a while, it starts to turn back into dirt. So me, I grew up in an urban area, so when I learned about this, I was just fascinated and amazed. It's such a simple and yet important thing that we can do.
Okay, I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a small farm, so that's something I knew about was composting. Most of our food scraps actually got fed to our animals, and of course the animals did their own version of composting.
Yeah.
But, they're the best compost machines out there, I'm telling you. But
yeah,
protecting the environment is, that's just one way. Another one you mentioned, I guess, was recycling.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, there's, the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle.
Now, recycling, it's simple, but then you get to talking to people, and especially if they're trying to set up a recycling center in the area you're at, it can get very, you can get intense. You can have migraines trying to figure out your systems. Start just simple recycling. What's the best way, to get that going in their everyday life? I know collecting cans is one. What's some other things we can do?
Well, the way I like to look at it first is, there's this saying of these 3 R's. Instead of, reading, writing, and arithmetic, there's reduce, reuse, recycle. And the best way to do it is to start with reduce. Is first to decide, do I really need this thing that I'm about to buy? Is there something I already have that I can use instead, or is there something I can borrow from someone else? Then after that, you reuse. So if you've got something, like say you've got a glass bottle, for example. One good thing to do is recycle it, but you could also reuse it to put something else in there. So those are the first steps, to think about that angle of things. Like before I even recycle it, is there some other use I can have for this item?
Yeah.
So then once you decided, like you can reuse plastic bottles again, you can reuse glass bottles, you can reuse boxes. Actually, you can combine, if it's a cardboard box without any sort of plastic on it, you can use that as a part of a composting and sheet mulching, which a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, you can grind up paper cardboard, can't you?
Yeah.
And add that compost.
One technique they use in urban areas, if they've got compost and they're planting something, cardboard is pretty common in a city. It's everywhere, so you can put some compost down, put some seeds, and then use the cardboard as sheet mulch. Because the cardboard will just biodegrade and become part of the compost too. So there's all sorts of little tips like that. Yeah, once you do decide to start recycling, it's pretty easy if you got a recycling program in your area. You just have to get the bin and start collecting it and put it in there. I also like it because it illustrates the principle.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, several years ago, one of my relatives worked at a cardboard recycling place. And they actually would go to the business and collect up the boxes every day, and they crushed them into huge bales, and they were sold somewhere else. And for several years, she was actually an employee there and made a living at it. And I thought, that was really neat because it helped the businesses to reduce their waste, reduce the landfill. It provided an income for 3 people, this little small business, and at the same time, it was, we were taking care of this problem by recycling and reducing at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing to consider if you don't have a recycling program or a big recycling program in your area, is the process of creating one can be an important way to create a few new jobs, help out the businesses so that they don't have as much waste, that sort of thing. Yeah.
I think I pointed out a while back on one of the blogs or a conversation somewhere, if you have a recycling center in your area, that's one way you can raise funds fairly easy for your little charity projects. don't take a quick search on Facebook or not Facebook, but Craigslist or something like that to find used washers and dryers that are broke down. They can't be fixed. Or old refrigerators. And drive through the neighborhood, you'll find people that's got scrap metal with this, bicycle parts or swing sets, stuff like that. Load up a truckload of that stuff. You take it to the recycling center. You can sell it. That money can be given to charity, and you've helped in several ways of things that could have been in the landfill are not anymore. They can be reused, recycled. They can be parted out. Sometimes the places will part them out if they're good. Even old cars can be sold in situations like that. And usually it takes just an afternoon worth of work, and you can probably make $40, $50. They can go towards a worthy charity.
Yeah, that's good, because then that helps both the charity that you're helping and it's good for the environment, too. That's part of what I try to find is solutions like that help out a variety of people at once, because if you can spend an hour helping in 3 different ways instead of just in one different way, then that's ideal. You're maximizing your effort. Another one that this is more of the help that this happens to bring is for both yourself and the environment, and that's the matter of energy efficiency. Like, it's something that a lot of people don't give much thought to if they're not already aware of environmental issues. But there's a lot of little things you can do that will improve the way you use energy in your house, in your car, in your business. That's it's going to save you money, which, like you said, you can donate that somewhere, or you can just spend it on other things. And it's also at the same time doing environmental good. One of the examples for this for cars is a lot of people don't realize that if your tires are fully inflated and if you've got nothing in the back and in the trunk, then you're going to get more fuel efficiency. So just by taking a few minutes to inflate your tires, get that junk that you've got in the back seats moved into the house, that'll save you a mile or two per gallon, which adds up over time.
I didn't realize that. I've got another caller here, area code 253. Who we got?
Skyman.
Skyman. Hey, Skyman, you've had a busy week, haven't you?
Oh, no comment.
Yeah, well, it's
good to hear your voice, Sky.
I'm just glad to be here, guys.
I'm going to take a moment. We're talking about everyday ways to improve the environment, to protect the environment. And, of course, the key words here, reduce, reuse, recycle. One of the things we're doing here is some reducing of our own, and Skyman is the champion of that this week, apparently. We've got an area we call the drop zone, and as I step into the drop zone, I'm down again this week 2 pounds, so for a total of 6 pounds over the 3 weeks we've been doing this. But, Skyman, you're fixing to put me to shame. So let's hear what you got.
Oh, Lord. Yes, I have now a new entry into the drop zone. My entry is 332. So when I first got on the scale 3 weeks ago, I weighed 354. That's a total loss of 22 pounds.
Oh, wow.
In 3 weeks. Don't ask me how it happened. It just did.
Well, I think we're going to meet somewhere in the middle, because I've been working on gaining weight because I was underweight because of health troubles. So now we're probably going to meet around 200 somewhere, all three of us.
I tell you what, TREESONG, I'd give you about 50 pounds if I could.
Yeah,
it'd be a win-win situation.
I wish I had superpowers. I've joked with friends, if I had the superpower where I could just take a few calories from you, I would do it.
You'd be rich. I tell you what, people would be flocking to you.
Yeah.
Goodness. We've lost Amazonia. She's having some phone trouble, I think. She's cut in and out a couple times. I don't know if she's going to make it back in. But, so TREESONG, going off what you said, you're talking about inflating the tires and everything on the cars. What's another secret that we can use to for energy, conserve energy, reduce, reuse, recycle?
Okay, yeah. Another one is, I like talking about this one because it's sort of a funny way of looking at things. It's the idea of energy vampires. Have you heard about this idea yet?
No, I haven't.
Basically, in your house you've got all these appliances, like you've got a TV, you've got a microwave, you've got a stereo. So there's all sorts of things that are plugged in all the time. And you may not realize it, but a lot of those are sucking energy when they're plugged in. They're ready to be turned on, so they've got like a little bit of energy that they're constantly pulling. So what you can do is, one thing you can do is you can put them all on a power strip, and then that way when you're not using them, you just flip the power strips off in the power strip, and they're not sucking energy anymore. Another thing you can do is go through your house and try to figure out, well, like, I've unplugged everything except this TV, and the meter's still spinning, so the TV must be sucking energy. Then you realize you've got to put that on a power strip so you can turn it off when it's not plugged in. One of those little things that, like, if you haven't heard about it
every
before,
little bit helps.
it doesn't occur to you. Yeah.
Actually, the things I was always taught was weather strip the doors and windows. In the wintertime, we would put plastic over the windows to stop drafts so it would heat better, take less energy to heat the house. Little tricks like that. And
that's another good one, too.
Here in our apartment, in order to keep, because we have big windows in our apartment, I actually got some styrofoam insulation and put in the windows to block the heat so that it was easier to cool it. Just like it was like an icebox all summer after that.
Yeah.
And here it's almost Christmas and we haven't even run the heater yet because the heat from downstairs is more than enough to keep us warm now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the advantages of all that insulation is that it makes you able to keep the house hot or cool with less energy. It's the weather stripping and the caulking can sometimes help too. You can also get special windows that are better at insulating. That's one that's a little more pricey, but then once you do it, it saves you money. So balances out.
Cool.
Yeah, then there's also simple things.
You had an event a few weeks ago, Superhero Day or something like that, up there where you're at. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, I had, right before they had the Superheroes Anonymous, about a week before that, I had a local Hero Fest, we called it. Yeah, and that was a good thing. That was an example of helping out environmental causes and social causes, too, at the same time. Because we had...
TREESONG, weren't you the creator of this Hero Weekend?
Yeah, I was the main organizer. I came up with the idea, and so I contacted local community groups. And there's this pavilion in the center of the town that's pretty easy to reserve. So I reserved the pavilion, and I invited these groups. And so these groups came and gave out their information about, one group that helps protect sort of natural areas around town, another group that does a lot of things at a community center. Basically a way to give these groups all together in one place so they can get their message out. Help protect people on the planet at the same time.
Sounds like it was a lot of fun.
We made it fun, too. Yeah, like we played music there. Yeah, it was pretty fun. Like you had bands there, you had information there, a little something for everybody.
And then you mentioned Heroes Anonymous. So apparently that was, I had them backwards. I thought that the Hero Weekend happened after Heroes Anonymous. Tell me a little bit about Heroes Anonymous since you were there.
Oh, yeah. That was a really good experience. Skyman was there, too. And it was good because we packed so much into such a short amount of time. We did first aid training so we could learn how to give first aid if we need to. We helped at a food bank. Basically, they had all this food that they needed to shift to people who needed it, so we put it in boxes for them. They had this little assembly line going where we packed it all up for them and got it ready. We also walked in the Race for the Cure. It's this race they have as a fundraiser for breast cancer research and treatment. And we did the homeless outreach, too. At one night, we went out in Portland and went to a place where there were usually homeless people, people in need, and gave out some food and supplies. So that was really good. I felt like it was well-rounded.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good about that weekend from the folks who were participating in it.
Yeah.
And it sounded like a lot of like I had a lot of fun and got a lot accomplished. And that's the one thing I'm seeing. Just as I learn more and more about this movement, especially since we started the show, we're talking to people and seeing what we're all doing different. Is that we're having a good time doing what we do, but at the same time we're changing people's lives for the better. We're protecting our environment. We're protecting our communities. We're doing things that make a difference, and it's just it's powerful to see what you can do if you just step out of your little shell and you can still have fun at the same time.
Yeah.
Defender's on the chat room right now.
RLSH
He says,
there, sir.
Yeah, our friend Defender, one of my friends from Facebook, he's on here, and he says the food banks need volunteers during the holidays. So that's one of the things we talked about last week, our challenge, that go volunteer at the food bank. If you got the time, that you go up there and give them an hour, help them out.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of leaving you hanging, TREESONG, but just keep going. You are spilling out so much wisdom to us here on this environmental protection stuff.
And I should mention too. I've been meaning to get together for a while now a list on my website of little tips you can do, and so in honor of the show, I actually got that together. There's if you go to treesong.org/green, I've started a list of helpful hints and tips of specific things we can do to help the environment. Let me actually glance at that now and see if there's any we didn't get to. Oh yeah, here's another one we didn't get to yet, is buying local. The importance of local foods and local products. Because a lot of people don't think about it, but this is a way to help both your community and the environment. It's kind of obvious how it helps your community, because someone who works there in your community is getting paid to sell this product or, make this product. But then it also helps the environment because, shipping something around the world just so you can eat it or use it once, that's using a lot of fuel just to get something to you. So you can get something instead that came from your town or the next town over or, somewhere else in your state. That's a lot more environmentally friendly.
Definitely.
It's also kind of fun, too, because then you've got this relationship with what you're buying. You can say, oh, this is the food that was grown 20 miles from here. I can probably go meet that farmer,
I always love going to the farmer's market.
Yeah.
The local farmer's market. You get the fresh food, and when I was a kid, we'd go to the farmer's market and buy up the stuff. We grew our own tomatoes and stuff. We'd buy up some other stuff, green beans and that, and take them home, put them up, can them for the year. So we'd have food put back for the winter. But that was always fun, even as a kid, to go to the farmer's market and see all the stuff that was grown locally, rather than go to the store and you buy it in a can. It's like, what the heck,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
well, at the farmer's market, you got free samples.
Yeah. I really like I like the fact that we have a farmer's market here in Carbondale, where I live, because when I grew up in Chicago, they didn't have that, or if they did, we never found it. So coming here and seeing that you can go there, you can meet the farmer, you can know what was put on your food. You don't have this mystery of like, what did they do to this? What sort of chemicals did they put on this? You can ask them, and it's very nice to have that relationship. And you're doing good for the environment by not burning all that fuel to transport your food. And I mean, sometimes, like bananas, for example.
You go to the farm and pick it, can't you?
Oh yeah, there's that too. There's some places around here you can do that. They've also got this thing called CSAs, Community Supported Agriculture. It's where you might know about this already, but it's at the start of the season you buy a membership with a farmer, and then once a week the farmer brings you like a box of veggies. it's sort of a way like you get the benefit because you know once a week you're going to get all these fresh veggies delivered to you, and they get a benefit because they get the pay at the start of the season when they need it the most to buy the seeds and the supplies. Helps out everybody.
That one. Kind of like reverse sharecropping then, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's pretty nice because it helps out both people involved. You know, if you already know you're going to use a lot of fresh veggies, then you got this, this share that you just buy from the farmer, and it's taken care of. There's either depending on the town you live in, there might be like a spot where you come and everybody comes to pick it up, or the farmer may actually come and bring it to you. But the basic premise is helping out you and the farmer by having it set aside. And it's called Community Supported Agriculture, or CSA.
Well, if you give me just a moment here, I want to talk about our friend Jack. You know, everybody, if you've been out there and getting your super suit and you don't look sharp, you don't look good, people are going to tell you right off you don't know Jack. At least those of us in this community, right? Jack's our friend at Hero Gear, and Jack's been doing costume making for the last years, and for the last 3 years, he's been making some of the most iconic and heroic looks around. And guys, ladies and gentlemen, superheroes, he can do justice to your image no matter what your image is. Just send him a design and ask him for help finding that perfect look, and in a short time, the superhero seamster is going to have you electrifying the world, and he can do it for a very reasonable fee. I want you to remember, for the perfect super suit, it's www.hero-gear.org. HeroGear.org. It's where the best-dressed heroes shop. There's your shout-out, Jack. I want to make sure, like I said, everybody, HeroGear.org. It is the best place to get your super suit. Now, TREESONG, I want to stretch you a little bit. I don't think I bounced this off you ahead of time. But just thinking outside the box here, suppose we have a patrol. We're going out through town here. Most of us are city dwellers now in this movement. But suppose we're heading through town on a patrol and we got you with us. What are the things we need to watch for, the things we can do as we walk through to be more environmentally conscious?
Oh, yeah, that is a good question. Well, I guess one thing you can do is when you're deciding what you're going to, say if you're doing a patrol where you do outreach for the homeless, for example, you can focus on not doing so many things that are, just one-use disposable items, or, trying to focus on things that are themselves ecological, like some of these tips I mentioned. Like you could give them local food, for example. You could go to the farmer's market, buy some local food there, and give it to them. That'd be one sort of way if you're planning in advance. I guess another thing, too, is to carpool. This may seem obvious, but if you got 5 people who are patrolling together and all 5 of you come in separate vehicles, then you're using up a lot of fuel just to do that. You might be able to pick each other up along the way and meet in a central place and save a little fuel.
That sounds like a good deal. The thing that I think about is, of course, when you're walking through, picking up trash.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do that. I do that sometimes when I'm just out walking, and I also do this when I'm out walking in natural areas too. If it's a place that's visited by a lot of people, then there's usually bits of trash off to the side, and I get sort of litter radar. I'll just, out of the corner of my eye, I'll turn and see something 20 feet away, and I'll know I'm the only person who's going to actually walk into the woods 20 feet to clean it, so I'll go get it. That can be especially true if you're in a city. It can be especially true in the park, for example. There might be, people tend to, litter in the park because they think, oh, it's a bush. I'll just throw this underneath the bush. Nobody will care. And then you can still see it there. It's still some animal is going to choke on it or that sort of thing. It's probably not going to biodegrade, so it may as well clean it up.
Yeah. I know. There's creative ways to do cleanup too. A few years back, when I was running a motel Bluff, I had a bunch of kids that was there at the hotel, and they were just rambunctious and looking for something to do. And I come out with a handful of trash bags, and we had our little lot and our parking lot and everything out there that was just trashed out. And I told them they each bring me back a bag full of trash and give them a soda.
Yeah.
And about 30 minutes later, my parking lot and the little lot next to it and everything was sparkling clean. They were going into the lot next door to try and get stuff so they'd have a bag full because they wanted to make sure they got their soda.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
But it seems to me like, you know, a lot of times you hear of environmentalists that overcomplicate everything. They go to the extreme, and that's one of the things I like about talking with TREESONG online and here today is that you're realistic. You know that changes take little pieces. Protecting the environment is like eating that proverbial elephant. You have to do it one bite at a time. I've seen so many environmental activists over the years, and that's the ones you see on TV. Like, they always go for the extremists, of course, but they're completely freaked out. You know, no more aluminum cans and no more this and and instead of trying to find ways to slowly change and move towards that greater goal, they want to get to that goal immediately, and nobody does. They freak out and they scream and they have a big hissy fit.
Yeah.
The ways that you talked about here today are just, you know, they're practical. That's what's really important. That's what, you know, as a hero, as a citizen, as a human being, that practical is the key word here. So I really appreciate having you here. So what's some more advice you give us?
Oh, yeah, well, I want to mention that, too, that I like what you said, and thank you, and it makes me, it reminds me of the reasons why I got involved in the real-life superhero movement, because before, you know, sometimes when I was working on environmental issues or community issues, I'd end up being really negative in my thinking, you know. There's all these big problems out there, and we got to get angry and fight against the people who are doing all these bad things. But this approach of being a real-life superhero changes the focus to, you know, what can I do? What positive step can I take? You know, instead of being worried about all these terrible things that are going on, just focus on, you know, what can I as an individual change and what can we as a group change? And that's much more positive, much more fun, much more sustainable.
I'm looking to hear at the chat room. Defenders, he's going in the chat room. He's got all kind of suggestions, talking about the food banks and such like that, needing the volunteers. He said at the Catholic Church nearby, they have orders called St. Vincent's who work with the board. And, of course, he's telling me he can't type or spell when he's on the chat room.
He's doing fine.
It's our kryptonite.
That happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, you know, Skyman, Midnight Detective, either one of y'all got some questions for TREESONG while we're going on?
Sure. Hey, TREESONG, this is Skyman. I was curious, what makes you so passionate about the environment? Why did you choose the persona of TREESONG, whereas, you know, you could have been Captain Slappyjack or whatever, but you chose an environmental crusade, and was wondering, where did you get your inspiration?
Yeah, I think I tend to think about two places, really. One was when I was growing up, you know, I lived in the Chicago area, mostly an urban environment. But then my grandpa would occasionally take us to this nature preserve that was out in the suburbs near us. And I have really fond memories of us walking in the woods together, him talking to us about different things, learning about all that sort of stuff. And then the second thing is the move I made. When I went to college, I moved from the Chicago area to southern Illinois. And I don't know if you're familiar with Illinois, but it's 300 miles long, and so I'm over 300 miles away from Chicago now, and I'm more, I'm in a town, a college town, but all around us is forest and farms. So that shift from living in an urban area and not really knowing what was going into my food or my water, then coming out here and seeing all of these beautiful natural areas, all these people who work the land, it changed my way of thinking. And there was such a big change for me that I decided to adopt a new name and start working on environmental issues.
And I've actually been not too far from where you're at. My wife's family is from Carlinville, Illinois. That's not too far away from where you're at.
Oh yeah.
It's
yeah, I've heard of that.
It's different from my area. I live in timber country down here. I grew up around pine trees, but southern Illinois and Missouri and Iowa, that area, when I went through all that, there's a lot of corn. That's one big thing I know. Well, it's just cornfield.
Yeah, and one thing a lot of people don't realize is that if you go far enough south, like just right around Carbondale, actually, is where it starts to change, where you go from just flat land with cornfields to these big hills and ridges. Nothing as big as you get out west. You know, you've got mountains out west, but you know, these ridges and bluffs and forested hills, and it's quite a beautiful area down here. And I never knew that living up in Chicago. You know, I thought that it was just flat land straight all the way through to the Gulf of Mexico.
Chicago's its own strange world. I was up there in Waukegan for basic training. You got to go see Chicago while I was there for school, and it's a whole different world. You get just a few miles outside of Chicago, and you start hitting some country and some farmlands and stuff, and it's like a whole different perspective on everything.
Yeah. I like it here in Carbondale because it's a community of about maybe 25,000 people if you count some of the students, and that makes it big enough that there's a lot going on and there's plenty of things to do, but small enough that, you know, you can drive 10 minutes and be out in the woods, and, you know, you can have that aspect of life too.
I got another caller calling in here, area code 956. You're on Superhero Academy.
Buenas tardes.
Hello?
Hello?
Bueno. Who do we got?
Hi, this is Defender.
Defender, what's from Superhero Academy?
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Thank you very kindly for letting me call. I just wanted to say that for those of us who are in lower income or more, shall we say, rural areas, one of the things that I like to do is you can go visit your small town mechanics. A lot of them don't have nice shops or big businesses that they work at. They tend to work out of their own garages. So one thing you'll notice is a lot of stacked up antifreeze, stacked up oil in containers. Almost all your auto parts chains will accept that and donate that so that they can be processed and not go into your landfills or into your waterways. Another thing that we like to do is we'll ask for volunteers to clean out weedy lots, standing water, which brings mosquitoes, your rusty vehicles. You'd be surprised at how shocked both city people and police will get when you tell them we're here to help, we would like to help with this. And then, of course, what you mentioned before, which was if you can't reach your food bank, there are so many churches and so many different denominations. I'm not going to say there's a single right church, but if you can't get to a food bank, I don't know a single church that doesn't have some program to help the poor and the needy.
Yeah. Yeah, those are good ideas. I like them, actually. And that's one thing I like about talking about this sort of stuff, that I learn new things and new ideas, too, every time I talk about environmental issues. I like it.
Real good idea with the auto cut, the oil and the antifreeze and all that, and taking it back to the parts pulling center. I've never heard that before, and I grew up at a shop, pretty much. Batteries, I guess, would be another thing. The old car batteries can be taken back in if they're be recycled also.
I agree.
I can remember seeing those stacked up on the back of my grandpa's shop there where he worked, you know.
In the old days, it wasn't as much of a big deal because in the old days, batteries were actually rebuilt and refurbished. So it was real common to just keep the batteries around. But these days, since batteries are almost swapped out like nothing, you can find leftover batteries all over the place, and those can be pretty dangerous, especially with all the acid. And so, yeah, batteries are a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got
TREESONG, this is Midnight Detective. I got a question for you here. Have you ever run into anything dangerous while you're out there picking up the garbage? I ask this because I'm from Missouri, over by Hannibal and St. Louis, and we had a lot of problems a few years ago with mobile meth labs, and they would just take what's left of the lab after they were done, throw it in a trash bag, and then we'd be finding them out in fields and in yards and ditches. I mean, some of that stuff's pretty toxic.
Yeah. Yeah, let me think. I don't think I really have so far. I know I've done litter cleanups, and I'm trying to think, probably the most dangerous thing I've come across is, the used condoms that you find laying around some places. Didn't want to touch that with their hands. But I don't think I've come across any toxic chemicals yet, or, that sort of thing. Just more physical hazards, usually like broken glass, sharp metal, that sort of thing.
I know after
like a lot of areas, we do have a meth problem. So it is possible, but luckily I haven't stumbled across it yet.
Yeah, as I said, a few months ago they had the flooding over here by Hot Springs where I live, with the campground the 500-year flood came through and killed, I think it was 20, 30 people. It was in the campground. It comes so suddenly. They were out there cleaning up, trying to do the body recovery, and as they were cleaning up the wreckage, their problem was snakes. They were just overwhelmed with cottonmouths and copperheads. And,
yeah.
That's something I think about every time I'm picking up stuff, especially anything of any size. You see a piece of sheet metal laying somewhere, and that's more common than I care to admit sometimes. But you pick up a piece of sheet metal, you don't know what's under it. About dangers,
Yeah, be careful and kick it. Don't just pick stuff up. I got bitten by a baby rattler in Missouri when I was a young kid, a timber rattler. So always use your boot. Don't just reach down and pick things up.
Always use a hoe.
If you don't know what you're dealing with, there's I know that down here, whenever we run into something that we don't recognize or a snake that we don't know whether it's poisonous or not, Animal Control has always been very good about coming out. And when we did find things that were questionable, like syringes or chemicals we didn't recognize, our local police department was always really good about coming out and disposing of anything that looked like a weapon or a drug.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned it. I think I've seen syringes at this point.
Go ahead, TREESONG, you were going?
Oh, yeah. I think I've seen syringes at some point now that you mentioned it, but it's been a while. So, and yeah, the boots, kicking it with the boots is a good idea because, your boots tend to be sturdier than even if you've got a glove. It's going to bite through your glove.
Well, you're braver than I am because I usually hit it with a staff or a stick first.
Yeah.
Never think that snake won't rear up and bite you. And the thickest leather boots are the best because I had a pair of tennis shoes and I was out there traipsing around the backwoods in South Texas and I came upon this 10-foot rattler and if it weren't for my big, thick cowhide boots, at the time, my tennis shoes, I would have been bitten. So just be very careful. And me and Indiana Jones have the same fear of snakes. I hate them.
Here's an idea, TREESONG, you may or may not know of. Every year after Christmas, down here in Arkansas, they collect up the Christmas trees and take them to the river. And they'll not the artificial trees, but the live. Anybody uses live trees, they'll collect those trees up, take them down to the Arkansas River, and throw them in areas where the fish bed up to make natural breeding areas for the fish.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so people here in South Texas as well, they ask that you donate and take them to the beach area, especially South Padre, to prevent erosion.
Which the first year I heard about that, I thought, great idea.
Yeah, it's good to hear about programs like that. And one of the many little things you can do in your community is if you, like say you hear about this and then you notice your community doesn't have a program like that, you can start asking, whoever's in charge of collecting the trees, saying, is this just going to a landfill? Is it being used for something? What are we doing with this? And just by starting to ask questions, you might be able to change what they do. Because sometimes, if you have a negative mindset, you can look at it like, say, a city government, for example, and say, well, they're not doing this because they don't care about the environment, so I'm just going to yell at them. Or you can say, well, maybe it didn't occur to them yet, but there's another way to do things. And you can ask them, you can make suggestions, you can offer to help.
There's always ways to find out ways to do new things. I've seen just identifying a need often creates its own solution sometimes. I've seen many animal shelters start that same way. Just finding out there wasn't an animal shelter in the community, and somebody's like, we need to do something about that. Next thing you know, they have a fully functioning no-kill shelter there and full community support. And the same is done with recycling programs and programs like recycling the Christmas trees. They do. I just recently was listening to a radio program. They're doing a thing in the lakes here where the fish population is not growing as fast as they wanted it to because where they stock the fish, they've started growing. They've got a larger adult fish population than the small fish because the small fish are food. And so what they've done is they've created these. They call them trees, but what it is it's a PVC pipe maze that they build. And it's got all the openings, it's like a big checkerboard in all directions, and there's openings in all directions. And the little fish can swim up in them, and the big fish can't, and they drop those at certain areas of the lake. And what they've done is they've increased the minnow population by doing that. I thought, well, what an out-of-the-box idea, and they use PVC pipe that's because it doesn't collect the germs. That other stuff, it's something antibacterial about it. What they use, and they went out and they actually let the Cub Scout groups and such like that assemble them and take them out and put them in the water and be part of the process of rebuilding this population of these certain lakes here. I thought that was a really neat way, and of course it builds for the next generation. They're learning how to. Things that you take care of the environment, learning to appreciate our world.
Yeah. And that's some of the thinking we need is not just like, oh, there's not enough fish here, so let's put in some more fish. It's how can we change this so that it's self-sustaining, that the problem fixes itself.
Exactly.
Well, one of the suggestions I would have for people who like all of these little tips, well, one is, like I mentioned, I just started working on a website at TREESONG.org/green to collect some of these tips. Another tip is there's this design philosophy called permaculture. It's short for permanent culture or permanent agriculture. And a lot of what they do is they try to take little suggestions of changing the way that we design our house, our garden, our farming, so that it's making the most use of natural resources instead of sort of struggling against them. Some examples are like the composting is one that's already in use by a lot of people who do agriculture, but they point out the fact that you can do it in cities too. So that's why it's good to hear from people like the New Orleans example where they're doing it in a city now and learning to compost that way. But if you do like an internet search for permaculture, you'll find all these sites that have suggestions for how to do a little home garden, even if you're in an apartment. You can do like growing things in the big white buckets, and you can learn how to do just about anything about your house or about your land. You can learn an ecological way to do it.
Definitely, it's a heroic thing to do. If we're looking from a real life superhero perspective, is to find ways that every step we take should be beneficial. They talk about the carbon footprint, but let's just talk about the path we leave behind us. What we leave in our wake, and as long as we are leaving something positive in our wake, even if we don't, we go out and walk around the neighborhood and we don't stop a single crime. But if in that process we've given sandwiches to people that are hungry, and we've picked up trash, and we've improved the area, and it's better when we leave than when we get there. And I feel like we've done something heroic, and we've done something powerful, and that impact is going to inspire other people to do the same. and for two, it just makes things better. You know, if there's not trash on the ground, we don't have to worry about birds and animals coming down here and eating garbage or whatever that's going to make them sick. We don't have to worry about our kids getting hurt on broken glass, or we don't have to worry about snakes being underneath pieces of metal over here to the side waiting for somebody to walk across it. We've made something that was in one condition into a better condition, and it's better for everybody. And over the period of 10, 20 years, it's like if you drop a penny in a bucket every day. It don't seem like much at first, but it starts to add up.
Yeah, it does. And it's things like that in the community, Oh, go ahead.
To me, these kind of things are even more rather than dropping a penny in a bucket, it's like the lesson if you take a penny and you double it. Whereas if today I'm out there doing something, tomorrow it's me and somebody else, and each time somebody sees somebody that inspires somebody else, so you double every time, so it's 2, 4, 8, 16. It doesn't seem like much again at first, but, if you took a penny and doubled it every day, the end of the month you have $1 million. It doesn't take long. It's little pieces, little parts. We're losing quite a few people here. Where's everybody going? I think we lost Skyman. I still got Midnight Detective, and Defender's not with us anymore. He does say thank you. He didn't want to say goodbye. He didn't want to interrupt, but he says thank you on the chat room. I'm kind of expecting Silver Sentinel to call in. He had texted me earlier today, but I think he's got to work a double again tonight, so he may miss us. If we have to, we'll make up our Silver Steel segment next week. I kind of think I know who he was going to be giving that to, but I'm not going to tromp on his toes there, and we'll let him pick it up next week. If we don't get him, we don't get him. That's fine. TREESONG, it's been great having you on here. And I've got your website here, treesong.org/green, and you've got a list of everyday things we can do to improve the environment. It's treesong.org.green. I will put that on the blog for anybody that wants to go look that up, and I'm definitely going to go over there myself after the show. Midnight Detective, anything you want to ask?
Well, I just like to point out that TREESONG's right, and superheroes are supposed to inspire, and part of that inspiring is teaching. I learned quite a bit listening to him tonight, and I'm heading out to his website soon to check it out, because I know guys my age. I'm in my late 30s. We didn't know that much about recycling. We really didn't. I was raised on a farm. We know the compost and chopping and burning wood. But, the generals of recycling and keeping things clean, we never thought about it. We never learned it. And, just get out there and inspire and teach the kids, you've got to do this. It's your planet. You got to take care of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits, that the example earlier of how it's like a penny's doubling instead of just adding one, is that now we're at the point where most young people today, because some of that education is going on, they do know about a few of the basics, like they know recycling, they know this or that. And since they already have that baseline, we can start telling them more tips, get them more encouraged, more excited about the process. So it really is improving the more effort we put into it.
Definitely so. I'd like to see, over the next year or so, we're definitely going to have you back, TREESONG, with some more specifics. Before the year's out, I know before next year's out, we'll have you back again. I want to try like that. But look at some more specifics, some ways that we're doing stuff. I'd like to see more things like the volcano down there in New Orleans, turning a vacant lot into a green, luscious, vegetable-producing section in the middle of this rundown city, I'd like to see that kind of stuff happening, because it shows that one person can make a difference. And
they can.
And it's it shows it in practical ways, and not the lunatic fringe that you see of the environmental movement. As a Christian, I see the lunatic fringe of Christianity, and I see the lunatic fringe of the news loves the lunatic fringe. They're the lunatic fringe of reality. But there are people out there that are environmentally friendly and environmentally conscious, and at the same time they realize that you've got to work in practical steps, or it just overwhelms everybody.
Yeah, Well, no, I try to realize that the reason why they get all frenzied and concerned about that is because they're scared. And part of what helps you not be scared anymore is when you start taking sort of concrete actions to make a change. You know, if you don't know what to do, you get kind of scared and start to panic. But if you know you can do this and that in your community, you can make a difference, then you're less likely to turn into a fanatic and start scaring other people, too. Instead, you can just do positive things yourself, and it's better for everybody.
The little steps are easier to take, and it's not as polarizing. That's what I see. The reality, you know, it can be very polarizing. You become a polarizing figure when you get radical like that. When you dig it in realistic steps and move forward at a slow pace, and you know, little bites, little pieces, and it becomes easier to digest. It becomes easier to process, and it becomes easier to ingrain into your psyche. If you make a habit to stop and pick the trash up in the parking lot when you get home every night before you go in the house and put it in the trash can, after 30 days, it's a habit. You develop it in your psyche. Then you start, you know, if you make a habit to put your cans in a separate bin and take the cans to the recycling center, after a point it becomes a habit. You don't even think about it anymore, and you can move on to something else. I know. Talk about recycling cans. If you'll check on the Ronald McDonald House website, they collect the tabs off the cans. If you are recycling cans, I encourage everybody to break those tabs off and keep them in a little bag or a jar somewhere on their desk, because the Ronald McDonald House collects those. That is a higher grade of aluminum, and they recycle those to help pay for the people that stay at the hospitals while the children are there being treated for cancer and other life-threatening diseases. So if you are recycling, of course, remember to save those tabs. The Ronald McDonald House, it's a favorite charity of mine, of course. But again, that's a little thing right there. You know, most people pull that little tab off and drop it in and never think twice about it, because it's not going to affect a whole lot of their recycling as far as carrying a big bag of cans. But those little things that benefits you, and it benefits other people. It benefits Ronald McDonald House. TREESONG, I've got your website here. We've only got about just a few more minutes left. I've lost my track of my time here. Here we are. We got about 3 minutes left. We're going to be getting short here in a few minutes. I want to thank you for having you on here. If you're also good with this, I don't think we have need of a After Dark this time. We pretty much covered it real well, and we're going to go check out treesong.org, and I will try to listen back to this later and write down some of the stuff we came up with and share it on the blog for Crossfire Academy, Superhero Academy. Thank you, TREESONG, for being here, Midnight Detective, Skyman, Amazonia, and Defendo for calling in. And we'll see you next week. Next week we've got another exciting guest. We are going to have, I don't have my notebook, I believe next week is Superhero, that's right. And we're going to be doing the makeup show from last week, talking about concealed carry, real-life superhero and police relations, and issues like that, and, of course, the vigilante issue. Begin at this time, 5 o'clock Central Time. For those of you who didn't call in or listen on the podcast, thank you again for Superhero Academy, and thank you, TREESONG.
Yeah,
we've got about a minute and a half. We're glad to have you, and again, TREESONG, thank you for everything. This has been a very informative show, and thank you for just coming in and sharing all this knowledge, and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. I'll listen in for future episodes to hear what all the other superheroes have to share.
Oh, yes. And Midnight Detective, thank you, and Skyman for your questions. You've helped a lot.
Well, thank you guys. It was very informative.
Sign us out with our little ending theme here, guys, and we're just going to call it a day, okay?
Okay,
thank you very much. Have a good day. For Crossfire Academy, here we go.
We're men in night. We roam around the forest looking for light. We're men in time. We run from the rich and give to the poor, that's right. We may look like cities, but what would you say, or else we'll put out your light. We're men in sight. Always on guard. rob from the rich and give to the poor. That's right.